You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. Casey Ford here in the Zone studio across West Michigan, as I'm going to be doing some shows here over the summer right here on WCET and across West Michigan. I'm going to bring big name guest Ken Kal, voice of the Detroit Red Wings, will join me here in just a little bit. Go big or go home, right, folks? Talk about the Red Wings and their postseason exit for a third straight year, what the team needs to do. It's going to be a great show, I tell you that. Now, let's talk about In the Zone a little bit. Started the show about 13 years ago. 13 years ago, I was just a little punk, puny kid. Probably about 20 pounds lighter, honestly. I'm fat now. But it happens. I mean, things happen. This is such a great job and such a great opportunity for people to get involved, whether it's here at WCET, WK-TV, BC-TV, or if you're even watching at GR-TV. Wherever you're watching, this is such a great job. And if you put the work into it, you get the rewards from it. And it's not really a job. It's a lot of coming in, talking sports, doing what a lot of people like to do. And that's get around a water cooler. And that's what I hope I can bring to you over the next few months. I am back in West Michigan for a little bit. I left a long time ago when all this started. When I first started this In the Zone, it was a 30-minute episode. Then Russell Chesky joined me, and we went and started doing some live radio stuff on the television. And then here in the beautiful studios in Hudsonville, Michigan, we're able to bring you the live feed when it came with the video and Russ and I bantering back and forth. I've left this job a couple of times. Obviously, I'm back now doing some more of it after 13 years. The weight gain is just, it's progression of life. And some of my guests over the next few weeks, you might recognize them, you might not. I don't know. But it is a lot of fun. If you don't know who I am, I was a graduate of Jensen High School in 2001. Came up through the system and started working here at WCET, volunteering my time. Wanted to do a sports show. But I was working at WBBL AM 1340 at the time, and I was just pretty much running a board. I decided, hey, I can do what they do. And so I tried. This job pretty much landed me pretty good gigs with the Grand Rapids Rampage. I was working in the International Basketball League with the Grand Rapids Flight, the voice of the University of Michigan women's basketball team. Greatest university in the world, by the way. Go Blue. Got my job, full benefits and everything, up in Marquette, Michigan, working at ESPN 970, which I was able to get to ESPN UP, which is on 93.3 FM and AM 970. So I've been able to do a lot of things with my career, and that was just because I was able to start at my local public access station, WCET-TV. Over the next few weeks, you will see some footage of me. I got to go down to Talladega about 10, 11 years ago with my good friends Casey Allred and Casey Henry. Fast forward 11 years, and I just got back from the Indianapolis Speedway when they let yours truly, me, talk at the Speedway, and I was able to drive on the Speedway. They let me open up to 87 miles an hour, but I also got to ride in a Camaro SS and around 157 miles an hour. So that was really, really cool. But you'll see that over the next few weeks. We're going to take this quick break. I don't even know who the sponsors are anymore. I'm sure you're going to throw like a DJ's Pizza Plus commercial in there or something. But love Dan Snow Inc. and DJ's Pizza Plus. But when we come back, we're going to talk to Ken Kal, voice of the Detroit Red Wings Radio Network. You're watching In the Zone across West Michigan with me, Casey Ford, right here on WCET-TV. Welcome back to In the Zone across West Michigan. I'm your host, Casey Ford, back here in the driver's seat. And joining me, I want to bring the biggest guest on, Ken Kal, voice of the Detroit Red Wings Radio Network. Ken, it's been a while. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Casey, and you're right, it has been a while.
Ken, obviously no secret, the Red Wings have been in the playoffs 25 consecutive years. Before we go to their playoff exit, let's talk about that 25 years. How historic is that? I mean, it doesn't happen all the time.
Well, no, it doesn't. It just goes to tell you how well the Red Wings have developed and how well they've been, not only in the cap era, but also prior to the cap era as well. So anytime you can put a streak together like that, that means something. Figure it, 25 straight years, that is an amazing feat, and not many professional teams go through that.
Now, with the Red Wings, back when this all started, you had the Sergei Fedorovs, the Yzermans, you had Osgood, Shovelday was somewhere in there. I mean, with the amount of talent that has come through Detroit, could you see another team like the Russian Five and the amount of talent the Red Wings have ever be assembled again?
Well, I think in a salary cap era, Casey, I don't think it's possible. And it seems like all teams are able to have 6 top forwards, maybe 2 or 3 top defensemen, and then it's anything goes. And you really have to develop and draft your players well. And so those days where the Red Wings had 10 or 11 Hall of Famers on their team just aren't going to happen anymore. So it's a league of parity right now, Casey, and all teams are almost identical and almost the same as far as talent goes.
Now, with the Detroit Red Wings, I believe this is the first time it's happened in a 25-year streak that they've been bounced in the first round of the last of the 3 years of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I know people, especially fans, get a little jumpy. I know it happened with Dave Lewis. How big of a leash is there on Coach Jeff Blashill right now?
Well, I think, to criticize him after 1 year is not right. And I know some of the fans are doing that, but it's not. I mean, I think he's in good shape, and he's going to get a couple years to try and figure out what needs to be done as far as building this team, and as he likes to call it, going through the process and becoming a Stanley Cup championship team again. It's really difficult. I mean, when you look at it, the Red Wings, they've got Datsuk and Zetterberg, who are the core of this team still, and they're up in age, and I think it's a double-edged sword in the fact that the Red Wings have made the playoffs, so they're not getting those high draft picks, and other teams are. And as a result of that, you're going to have to pick from the middle of the pack as far as the draft goes. And, it's just a matter of, trying to select a few free agents and plug them into your lineup and get things going. So Jeff Blashill's done a great job, I thought, in my opinion. So he's going to be around for a while.
Now, let's keep with Jeff Blashill. I mean, tremendous coach with the Grand Rapids Griffins, did some great things with the Western Michigan hockey team. I know he was up in the UP for a little bit for his coaching stint. Talk about Jeff and how he's been able to win at every single level he's been at.
Well, he's an outstanding coach, and I think what makes him really good is that he holds players accountable like all good coaches do, and he's got that ability to really interact well with his team, and I think that's important even in today's game. And, he's a pretty good X's and O's guy, and he surrounds himself with good people, and basically he's just a great guy. So, you put all that talent together and all those good things together, and you've got a good person and a good coach as well.
Ken Kal, voice of the Detroit Red Wings, joins me right here on In the Zone across West Michigan. Let's go to some of the guys you talked about. Let's start with Pavel Datsuk. Mitch Albom had an article a couple weeks ago in the paper saying Pavel was done. He's taking his stuff. He's going to go Russia. He's going to spend time with his kids. Pavel kind of backed off those comments as the playoffs went on. Does Pavel come back? And if not, I mean, that $7.5 million hurts them tremendously with that cap.
Well, you're right about that. I guess the way to approach the new season is you approach it to where Pavel's not coming back, and then if he does come back, then it's a bonus to your club. But obviously, if he doesn't come back, then unless you trade that contract, you're stuck with $7.5 million, and that kind of hinders your ability to go out and get a free agent or two. So it's one of those situations where we'll have to wait and see what happens in the summer. Just go from there.
Now, it's kind of funny to me because of the whole Pavel Datsuk. If he comes back and plays, it's great. If not, obviously it hurts the Red Wings. But you mentioned Zetterberg, and he's getting up there in age. He has another 5 years, $6 million a year left on that contract. Does he live out that contract, or does Detroit start looking to move some of these guys? Because Cronwell has 3 years left at 4.75. Erickson, 4 years, 4.75. Jimmy Howard, 3 years, $5.3 million. Seems like the Red Wings are kind of strapped at this point.
Well, it seems that way, but then again, you've got some players on the team that are going to be unrestricted free agents. We don't know what's going to happen with Kyle Quincy, Darren Helm. There's some youngsters in Grand Rapids that, their contracts are up. So, it can change in a hurry. And I've always said this, the Red Wings are a competitive group, and if you change one or two or three players in the lineup over the course of the summer, it can really benefit your team. So it's one of those things, Casey, where you just have to wait and see what happens. There's a lot of question marks right now. We don't know what that's going to do. We don't know what Helm or Quincy or any of the guys in Grand Rapids are going to do. So once we figure that out, and once you find out where you're at as far as the cap goes, then you can go out there and obtain some talent and try to build up on this team. And it's no different than any other season. A lot of times you at the end of the year, you look at your lineup, you look at your players, you assess the talent that you have, and you try to figure out ways to improve it. No different this year than it was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Ken Kal, voice of the Detroit Red Wings radio network, joins me right here on In the Zone across West Michigan as the Red Wings enter the off season now. As unfortunately, it's just one of those things that happens, and there has to be a winner, there has to be a loser. Obviously, Detroit has been on the losing end the last few years. Ken, talk about the fans a little bit, because it seems to be an unrealistic expectation here, because the Red Wings have been so good for so long, and the Red Wings haven't been in a Stanley Cup final since 2008 when they lost to Pittsburgh. Obviously, they had the run a couple years ago against the Blackhawks, but the fans always seem like they know what they're doing more than Ken Holland, or know what they're doing more than Jeff Blashill. When do the fans need to take a step back, get off the Twitter, get off the Facebook, and really realize how good this Red Wings team has been?
Well, obviously the fans are terrific here in Detroit, and I've always said this. I know I've heard some fans saying they'd be better off not making the playoffs. So I don't see it that way. I mean, players and teams compete for an opportunity to make the playoffs each and every year and try to compete for the Stanley Cup. That's the number one goal. You can ask any team you want, any player on any team at the start of the season, and they're not going to say, well, we're going to play this season because we want to draft high. No, they try to compete and make it to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that's all it takes, and you have to make it to the dance in order to compete for the cup. So, a lot of the fans that say that, it's better to not make the playoffs, I can't see their reasoning, because I think it's an honor and a privilege to be able to play 82 games and get yourself in a position to where you can win a Stanley Cup. And not every year, there's teams that are going to get bounced in the first round, but I've also seen teams that are 7th, 8th seeds that go to the Stanley Cup final. So in hockey, you just never know, Casey. You just got to play it out.
Hence the LA Kings, who always get better as the playoffs roll along. And who would have thought the Kings would have won a couple of Stanley Cups, especially one of them being an 8 seed? It just doesn't happen that often.
Well, you're right. And I remember in 2006, I believe it was, where the Red Wings played Edmonton in the first round. Edmonton beat out Detroit in 6 games. They went on to the Stanley Cup final. So anything can happen. And that was a series in which you get a hot goaltender, and a hot goaltender can take you the distance. So you never know, but you can never win the Stanley Cup unless you qualify for the playoffs. So making the playoffs is key. If you're knocking on the door each and every year, one of those days that those doors are going to open up and you're going to have a chance to win a cup, just like the Red Wings have done 4 times in the last several years.
Well, and you know this being a hockey guy yourself, but it seems like Detroit always runs into a hot goaltender as the playoffs go on, because how many times has Detroit lost in first or second round and that team went on to the Stanley Cup finals?
Well, just to give you an example, I know everybody looks at this last series with Tampa Bay and they say, well, the Red Wings lost in 5 games, but every game was close. Every game was tied going into the third period. And a bounce here, a bounce there, and you never know which way the series can go. Tampa Bay, they had the bounces, they scored the big goals, and obviously, they were the better team and they advanced. But it's so close today that there's never blowouts, and it's very rare you see that, and all teams are competitive. So, as much as people want to say, well, the Red Wings got bounced in 5 games this year, I can go back and say, you know what, every game was close, and the Red Wings had chances in each one of those games to pull out a victory.
Well, and it actually goes to show how consistent the Red Wings are, because how many games did the Red Wings have, win or lose, that were 1-goal games this year? I mean, more than any other team in the NHL.
Well, you're right about that. I think they played, including the playoffs, I think they played 45 or 46 games that were decided by one goal. And, you win some of those, you lose some of those. But you want to be on the winning side more than on the losing side. But again, you have to bolster your lineup, and you have to, I think, have certain players in your lineup that'll make the difference and be difference makers. And that's something that the Red Wings, I think, will be looking for come this offseason.
Ken Kal, voice of the Detroit Red Wings, joins me right here on In the Zone across West Michigan. Ken, let's talk about some of those players. Let's go back to last season. Nick Cronwall has one big hit against Tampa Bay. It seems like he plays a little bit differently now. Is Nick Cronwall the same hockey player he was a season ago?
Well, I would say that he's getting older. He's up in age, and his body. He plays a lot of tough minutes out there. He's one of the few Red Wings that play in all different types of situations, whether on a regular shift, penalty killing, power play, and over years it just takes a lot out of you. And he's a physical player. So I think last year that hit on Kucherov in the playoffs, I think he doesn't want to get suspended, and you got to be careful in today's game now. And I thought that really hurt the Red Wings last year, going into a Game 7 without Cromwell in the lineup. But again, that's the age of veterans that have played a while in the National Hockey League. Zetterberg, Datsuk, Cromwell. They're not spring chickens anymore. They're on the downside of their careers. But I'll still think that they're available and ready to play when needed to. It's just that I don't know if they can play the minutes they once played.
Let's go to Eriksson, because Eriksson seems to be an easy target for fans. They feel he turns the puck over too much. They feel he's a big body, but not as physical of what a Justin Abdelkader might be. Jonathan Eriksson, do you see him being moved on with this so-called expansion draft that's coming up, or do you see him being a Red Wing for the next 4 years?
Well, I think he still has a big part of this lineup, and he may not be getting the minutes that he got maybe last year or even this year coming up going into the new season. But I still think he's a big body, and he can be a valuable part of this Red Wing team. He sticks up for his teammates, and I think what the Red Wings are probably going to be looking at are some in the summer here is an opportunity to maybe grab a couple of more defensemen, some veteran defensemen that can bolster that blue line core, and as a result. Some of the minutes that Eriksson had this year, his minutes will diminish a little bit. But again, he's a strong presence back there on the blue line. He can clear out the front of the net, and sometimes he can drop the gloves and go after and protect his players. So I still think that there's a role for Jonathan Eriksson on this team, but I don't know how big of a role.
Ken Kal, voice of the Detroit Red Wings radio network, joins me right here on In the Zone across West Michigan as the Red Wings head into the offseason. Jimmy Howard, obviously 3 years left, $5.3 million. Peter Mrazek, waiting in the wings. It's been most of the season as Mrazek's team struggled down the stretch a little bit. A lot of people think that Jimmy Howard could be left open for this expansion draft. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think the expansion draft's going to happen until next year?
Yes,
this year,
yeah. That's why I figured we still have another year with Howard versus Mrazek.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens because, Mrazek is a restricted free agent, and his contract is up at the end of the season, so he's going to be getting some more money, and you have to take a look at the goaltending position and figure out how much you're willing to pay both goaltenders. So it's kind of a dicey situation right now. I don't know where that number is going to be. That's something that Ryan Martin and Kenny Holland will have to take a look at. But on the other hand, I guess I was a little bit disappointed in the fact that not one of those two goaltenders really took the lead. And at times Jimmy was playing well, and at other times Peter Mrazek was playing well. But going into the playoffs, there really wasn't a number one goaltender. And I think one of those two goaltenders have to be the number one guy, and you have to get that by earning it.
Well, and the other thing with the goaltending is, everybody's favorite goaltender, especially in Detroit, seems to be the backup. And there's a guy waiting in the wings in Grand Rapids, actually a couple with McCullum and Jared Careau. To me, it seems like it's a good problem for the Red Wings to have. But as you mentioned, there wasn't a clear-cut number one. And when the playoffs roll around, it's tough to win if you don't have a number one.
Well, you're right about that. And, again, both goaltenders had opportunities. And, like I said, Peter Mrazek was lights out at the first half of the season. And, everybody was talking about possibly winning a Hart Trophy. That's how good he was playing. And then all of a sudden the bottom fell out. And prior to that, Jimmy wasn't playing too good. And then good thing for the Red Wings, Jimmy started playing better once Peter Mrazek didn't play well. And then he took him to the playoffs. And then Mrazek came in and played the last couple of games in the playoffs. So it's one of those situations where both goaltenders, if they're coming into training camp next year, they're going to have to fight for a number one position. And hopefully we'll see who's going to be the number one guy.
Let's go with that a little bit, because you mentioned it, and we all saw it as Red Wing fans. Peter Mrazek, did he win games he wasn't supposed to win this year? Did he steal those games? Because a lot of people point to that Red Wings defense and said, if Mrazek made those defenders look a lot better than what they actually were. So did Mrazek steal those games?
Yeah, I think so. I think he did. And I thought he made some big saves when he needed to, when the games were on the line. And that was the difference halfway through the season, is the Red Wings were guilty of turnovers a lot of time, especially in their own zone, and Peter Mrazek bailed them out with some big saves. And, that's what happens, too, when you've got defensemen back there, where you need a number one or a number two guy that's going to eat up a lot of minutes, and a puck-moving defenseman that can get the puck to the forwards and send them on their way. Anytime that you start making 2-3 passes in your own zone and there's a forecheck that's unbelievable by the other team, chances are you're going to give the puck away or you're going to turn it over, and it results in a scoring chance. So to answer your question, I would say, yeah, Peter Mrazek bailed the Red Wings out a lot and was really making some key saves.
Speaking of young guys, Dylan Larkin, boy, did he come out on the scene, and was he ever flashy. Did he hit a wall this season because of the amount of games that he probably wasn't used to playing, or was it teams figuring out how to defend against Dylan Larkin?
Yeah, I think it was teams figuring out how to defend against him. I don't think he hit a wall at all. I was looking at his statistics, and I think he played 93 games last year. That combined everything, And I don't think he was tired at all. I think he still had a lot of energy. But it's like baseball, sometimes hitters go around and, they're great in the first half of the year, but then pitchers figure them out, and then they struggle. It's the same thing with hockey, too. And great hockey players, like Dylan Larkin, I think he's going to be a great one down the road. You have to find the ability to get open, and how they're defending you got to find a way to get open and do your thing that you do best. And I think, at one point you mentioned that he hit a wall. Well, I don't think he hit a wall. I just feel that he had to come up with a different way of playing and try to figure out the opponents and what they were doing, and I think he did figure it out. So, he's a talented player, Casey. He's got a lot of speed, he's got skill, he can shoot the puck, and he's going to be a good one for a long, long time here in Detroit.
Ken Kal, voice of the Detroit Red Wings Radio Network, joins me right here on In the Zone across West Michigan. Let's talk about this young youth movement right now with the Red Wings, because you have some really good players with Applicator and Larkin, also playing in the state of Michigan. You have some other players that have ties here to the state of Michigan with the University of Michigan, Michigan State, and some of the great hockey that's going on in the area. Talk about how important it is for Michigan, not just for the Red Wings, but for Michigan to keep developing at the high school level, the travel hockey leagues, and really developing players to get into the National Hockey League.
Well, for years, Michigan's been terrific, and over the years, we've seen a lot of indoor facilities sprouting, and an opportunity for kids to play this game, and it makes a world of difference right now, I think. And I just think that the more exposure that kids have to play this game, and the more facilities they have to play the game, it's only going to be better for the state of Michigan. And we're seeing it right now. In fact, even all over the United States now, even in the Sun Belt, even in California, you're starting to see players from the warm weather locations now making it in the National Hockey League, and that's because of all the arenas that have been being built and all the great programs. But this is a great area for youngsters to develop, learn the game. There's great college hockey, great minor hockey here in Michigan, and I hope it continues.
How often do you get a chance to watch like the Big Ten Network and the Big Ten Conference when it comes to the hockey season?
Not very much, because it seems like every time they're playing, we're playing. And from time to time, I'll be able to catch a Michigan State game or a Michigan game. And when Dylan Larkin played for Michigan last year, I was able to catch a few of those games on television. But for the most part, Casey, we're so busy with our 82-game schedule, I really haven't had a chance to watch that Big Ten Network too much.
What is your schedule like on a day off? Do you sit there and do you watch sports like the rest of us, or do you go out and do you shovel the driveway and watch movies and just kind of get away?
I don't have too many days off. I'm lucky to get one a week, I'm telling you, with all the travel and everything. And usually when there's a day off, it's usually a radio show that I have to do at the radio station. It's our Inside Hockeytown show. So you figure maybe during the course of the week you might get 2 days off where the team's not playing. One of those days you're doing a radio show, and the other day you have a chance to have dinner with the wife and maybe go out a little bit. But other than that, the schedule keeps you pretty busy. What
does the summer bring for you, Mr. Ken Kal?
Well, an opportunity to rest a little bit and just relax, get away from hockey for a little while. But, probably another month and a half, I'll get the itch again, and it just starts getting into your blood again, and you can't wait for training camp. But it's going to be an interesting off-season. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Red Wings are going to do in the off-season, players that will be here for the next season, and seeing who won't be here. And, I think it's going to be an interesting summer for the fans, too, to see what the Red Wings are going to do. And I guess you'll have to just keep focused on the papers and the internet just to see what the Red Wings will be doing.
Well, August and September, honestly, not that far away when the Red Wings go up to Traverse City and start working out. How often do you get a chance to see Dallas Drake when you go up there?
Oh, all the time. I see him at the arena all the time once we're up there in Traverse City. So he's a great guy. Had a chance to skate a little bit with him, and what a really great guy.
What does Dally have left in the skate department? Because I saw him playing a goaltender in some old-timer hockey leagues this year.
He can still fly out there, I'm telling you. But then again, anybody compared to me can fly. So he's outstanding. Great guy, a fun guy to be around, and one of my favorites when he was playing with the Red Wings.
All right, Ken Kal, voice of the Detroit Red Wings, joins me right here on In the Zone across West Michigan. We appreciate the time. Enjoy the little off season that you have, and then we look forward to the Red Wings and you being the voice of the Red Wings again once the season starts.
Thanks, Casey. Appreciate it.
Ken Kal, voice of the Detroit Red Wings Radio Network, joins me right here on In the Zone across West Michigan. I'd like to thank all the people here at WCET for giving me this opportunity to come back, talk to Ken Kal, voice of the Detroit Red Wings, and get a perspective of what the offseason is going to be like. Some things have changed, obviously. You see the different background. I don't know if you guys can change to this full camera view, but some things have changed, obviously. Back when I first started, I had all the jerseys, and, 13 years goes by, and you come back, and you just don't recognize the old set anymore. Hi, I'm here now. Hi, over here, JB. There we go. JB West still here. Thanks, JB, for coming in today and doing all this. JB, staple in the Jenison community. But seriously, you're going to have, at least I'm going to have some fun over the next few weeks. And I'll be back with Ben doing a live show on June 5th. Be back in town for that. So if you're watching, I'll be here June 5th doing a live show with Ben. I don't even know if, and maybe we'll get Ben's opinion on this, but with the shows that I'm doing, I don't even know if I should call it In the Zone or anything anymore. I mean, because when I started, it was In the Zone, and then there's been some hosts. I don't know if they should keep the name, if I should keep the name, if I should fight for the name. I don't know. But it's been a lot of fun this afternoon. I'd like to thank everybody that made this possible. Ben Fritzman in the back, Alan Dodd, station director here at WCET, JB West. I'd like to thank Ken Kal joining me this afternoon. And you'll see some guests like Joe Tanis. He's going to be joining me over the next few weeks. And Joe is the head football coach at Muskegon Orchard View, once a Granville Bulldog. Yeah, I know, Wildcats and Bulldogs are going to get together, right? I know. But we're going to talk some football and his career, and he was at Northern Michigan for a while, and how he got his start here at Muskegon Orchard View and what he's done to really make that program better. But that's all to come in the next few weeks right here on In the Zone across West Michigan. I've been your host, Casey Ford. Until next time, so long and farewell.